All right. Oh, I've been kind of on a recording hiatus, mostly because uh, things, life and things. But I wanted to sit down and share my most recent sort of hobby-related event, which was the Finger Lakes Area Gaming Con or Flag Con in Ithaca, New York. And so I went with my family and we attended this very modest local convention, and it was held in a new convention center that felt very set up for stuff like this. And I did not know that this convention existed. Apparently, it was held the previous year in 2023. If I had known that, I probably would have gone. But after my experiences at Gen Con in August, I wanted to try to, dip my toes back into social gaming once again. And I gotta say, FlagCon did not disappoint. They had plenty of board games, plenty of role-playing games. They had some wargaming as well for those that enjoyed that. And they also had some learn-to-play card game things and also some Magic the Gathering events, Flesh and Blood events. They had board game tournaments for various games. One of them was Azul, in which my wife got third place in. They had a what they called a Finger Lakes area mech battler or flam, where when you signed up for an event, the event organizer will hand out these certificates to hand into the booth for the Finger Lakes area mech battler stand, and then you get more parts to make your paper mech. It's like a rock paper scissors style game where you put stickers. I wish I had my copy in front of me, but the long story short is that as you play through these events and you play games and you get more loot, you take it up to the wow, words are failing me today. You take it up to the booth, and then they give you more stickers to upgrade your existing mech, or you can get new mechs to build like a mech army. And at the end of the weekend, you get to battle against others that have been doing the same thing. So it's kind of like a long form tournament. It's very casual. Then on the last day, they have like a 2 hour rock paper scissors battle basically against each other. And one of my kids got third place, so that was kind of fun. It helped that I gave them all of my tickets and everything because it wasn't something I was interested in, but I thought it was a nice little mini event that was held out through the entire weekend. It kind of brought people back into the day, into various events to sign up for different events. So I thought that was really cool. And the Finger Lakes area mech battler was actually created and run by a couple of friends of mine, of which I will omit just for sake of privacy and all that fun stuff, unless they feel inclined to introduce themselves. But this con had some really cool things going for it. I signed up for mostly like role-playing games, Shadow Dark, Cyber Plus Punk, Dragonbane, and also 5e. I did sit in with another game. I can't remember what it was called, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. I want to say that the most fun I had was definitely at the RPG tables, just because it's something I don't get to do as much as a player, and definitely not with other people mostly. I have my family sometimes that I play with, but for the most part, I don't get to play different systems all that much. And I gotta say, Shadow Dark still lives up to the hype, to my own sort of love for it. I love this system. I love playing with it with other people, with new people as well. The person that was running it did a fantastic job with their particular scenario, and it was a lot of fun. They had a little kitchen timer for the torch timer, and it was really fun. The Cyber Plus Punk game was it was a one-shot type of a scenario and system where you are basically, net runners on your last sort of mission, and it was a very cool sort of train robbery turned into a twist sort of thing that was really interesting and fun. It was a big table for that one. That was a lot of fun. And also Dragonbane, something that I have hinted that I wanted to bring to the table here on YouTube a couple of times, just haven't had a chance to. Love the system, love the skill-based idea, and had a lot of fun with that particular game. Then comes 5e. It was a little bit of a blur since the system was 5e adjacent, but the scenario was a separate sort of Kickstarter that unfortunately I cannot remember exactly who created it or anything. I was just a player at the table. I wasn't running it. But this was a last minute drop in. I had the event organizer actually sat down with one of my kids to play a game, and then she told me about it. So I just joined her game last minute. Top down, just from a GM standpoint, I absolutely loved the scenario. We played as evil drow, that live for the glory of, the god and the houses that you represent. And every 100 years, they gather together to hold some sort of arena puzzle challenge for each of the houses to solve. And if you come out on top at the end, then your house rules the city for the next 100 years. It used 5e rules as the backdrop, as the rubric, but the scenario was very unique in terms of it was evil, but it was puzzly, so we had to work together to solve what was going on in the scenario. But ultimately, we were there for ourselves and therefore our house. Interestingly enough, my character ended up being able to leave the battle successfully with one of the two idols that was needed to progress. Because this was an ongoing campaign, this would have been like the next stage. My character would go to the next scenario. Ideally, there would be 8 houses, 8 players that would represent 8 houses, and there'd be 7 idols to collect. And so therefore, there's 7 would go forward and 1 would be, drop out, or die, or be killed by fellow PCs. And there was a player at the table that pretty quickly fell out of favor with the scenario, not knowing what to do per se, but also didn't really like the fact that it was a evil or antagonistic scenario where we're kind of battle royaling it out for being in the top spots. For me, that made perfect sense, and of course, as a forever GM, I love the puzzle aspect. I love how different it felt. So the whole scenario was really fun for me to play as a character, and I kept apologizing to people at the table that my character is going to do something really bad to their character, or at least thinking about it. So that was interesting, especially at a con. Mostly con events are beginner friendly. This one definitely was not beginner friendly, and to the event organizer's credit, they did um, advertise that they wanted experienced players only. I think it would have been better for the description of the event if it was stated explicitly that it was a, you know, a battle royale style, but ultimately, like there is only going to be there's going to be fewer winners than there are players at the table. I think that would have been a little bit better onboarding for this particular player that we were playing with. But to her credit, she was just at the end of a long, weekend, and we all get tired when we're at cons, and or overtired when we do a lot of mental gymnastics in role playing and in board games all weekend. So she was also tired, and that kind of effect will affect your fun at the table. But that comes down to now what I really didn't care for was honestly the 5e system. I personally don't mind playing it and running it. It's familiar. But to be honest, the scenario was slotted for 6 hours, for a couple of hours of your character creation because you wanted to be level 8. It was a mid-level, high-level kind of a scenario. So there was a lot of things to level up into and choose and to build, as they like to say. And while I played a level 8 straight barbarian, and the other two players at the table, they chose spellcasters. And spellcasters have a lot to choose, have a lot to pick and choose, and they also had a multi-classing as well. And while this is all fine and dandy as you play a campaign normally, this particular scenario kind of assumed that you would be building a perfect sort of build for that scenario. And that is known going in, so it is a known quantity. The event creator and the person who was running it did provide for pre-generated characters that were made specifically for the event, and I chose one of them. And but my problem didn't come with all of that stuff, but it came with the, yes, we were battling, and yes, there was choices to make, and some of us didn't know our characters as much. I forgot about a couple of my extra attacks and my frenzy ability while being raged a couple of times, and that's par for the course for just playing a game. It just is, and that's fine. But what became the problem was that even though there was only 3 of us at the table, it was a combat scenario, so things were in turns most of the entire time. There was no real role-playing types of situations. It was very high action. A lot of the bogging down of 5e rose way up for me. And I can only speak from my experience and from what I prefer these days. Having played Shadowdark earlier in the weekend, and a scenario that had almost as much, quote, fighting and wandering around, went by so much quicker and smoother than this particular scenario. And the scenario, even though it was mid-level and there was a lot to do and puzzles to solve, each of our turns there was a lot going on, so it just slowed things down. And for 4 total sort of people at the table, the GM had a lot to do, of course, so I'm going to give them a little bit of a slack. Had to remember a lot of things that was in the play kit, and there was a lot of effects that the room was happening on the players. But to be very frank, the 5e system just slowed way down as the spellcasters, and then sometimes me trying to figure out how much movement I have, and just there was a lot of rules, sort of interactions that were happening that we all needed to be mindful of. And it was fun to play, but it could have went smoother. And I liked the people at the table, I liked the scenario, but I did not like this system. And this was the first time that I've played 5e that I really felt, oh, wait, I don't like this anymore, because I had previously run it and previously liked it. So this was the first kind of iteration of, oh, wow, yeah, I really don't like this anymore. And it felt weird to think that out loud. I mean, I even told the GM at the table as we finished, I'm like, this was an awesome scenario. I just didn't really like how clunky the system was for what was going on. And, they understood. So it was just odd to finally admit that to myself and not really join the train of people who are hopping off of it. We had one person come to the table asking what the game was, and the GM goes, "Oh, we're playing this campaign," and his first follow-up question was, "What system?" And she said 5e, using a separate module. And the first words out of his mouth was, I won't be part of anything that has wizards on it. And, to be fair, everyone has their right to play and not play things that they don't want to. But it was still just a game with people around at the table. And I wouldn't have not done it. Knowing what had happened that weekend, I would have played that game again, even 5e, again, because it was still fun. I had fun at the table. I had fun interacting with the players. The scenario was fun. Just the system was too clunky for long-term play. But at a con, a one-off for, 6 hours, great. It was wonderful. It was fantastic. But yeah, that was just kind of like my RPG side of things during the FlagCon. But the real reason I wanted to push record on the old button there was I also attended a short 1 hour kind of game jam seminar. The What's So Cool About FlagCon 2024, a 1 hour tabletop role playing game jam. This was very interesting to me. I knew nothing about what it was going to be or anything like that. And just a little short kind of what's the word? Primer on what a game jam is. So basically, a game jam, I've usually seen them online where the event organizer will host it, usually on like independent websites, kind of like HIO, where people will submit their various things for something that has a common theme. A particular good one that I really enjoyed was there was a Shadowdark game jam where people were supposed to create a level 1, I think it was level 1 compatible adventure module that was no more than 8 total pages. So you can create anything that was 8 total pages for Shadowdark, and you post it up on this particular game jam, and it was all pay what you want or post it for free for people. And then at the end of it, it would be judged by the event organizers and some other people. And then the winner would just get, clout and like thumbs up and stuff like that. I forget exactly who won the Shadowdark game jam. That one was run by Baron de Ropp of Dungeon Masterpiece on YouTube. And it was a lot of fun to follow and to participate in the voting. I almost created something. I did in a sort of unofficial way. I've never actually created anything to submit officially to these things. So when I heard about this, pen and paper game jam, I was very intrigued by it. So I signed up for it, and it turned out to be a really interesting, small, candid kind of thing where it wasn't us sitting and taking notes. It was us around a table all talking about ideas that we would want as a theme. And because I had recently and just completed last night, like recently ran a fungal themed micro quote mega dungeon. um I wanted to use more of that sort of creative juices on a mycelial network, fungal people type of game. And so I created, well, the very bare bones thing, and this was a game called Mycelium Micronauts. And, the idea for this game is where there is a central network core where the mycelial network is, and the further you go out from that, the more dangerous things are. So you need more mycelial micronauts to go out to gather resources to make the core better and stronger, and to further the influence of the fungal network. And it's very much like a build up your city, so therefore makes you stronger, and therefore you can go out further and adventure and collect resources and bring them back. There's a lot more going on in what I would like to do with this, but like that's the thing, and that's how much I got done in the hour. And that was really cool. I had created a whole bunch of tables and various things that I would need for a 4 Against Darkness version of this. I have a whole bunch of monsters that I've already created. I know you can't actually read this; it's too small for y'all. But I created vermin and boss monsters and various things that were all fungal themed, and I'm trying to see what I can do with this, both in terms of creating my own separate, very light RPG for it, and also a supplement for 4 Against Darkness as well. And right now, all I have are these index cards and this pamphlet that I filled out very hastily within an hour. It's pretty cool. And so that was very enlightening to me. It told me that I have the capability of doing this stuff, and I just need to do it. I've seen other creators on YouTube create their own supplements or their own games, and it's very inspiring. Moses of Wallona's Cave, good stuff. Highly recommend going and checking them out. And other, geek gamers, also one of the people that inspired me to do what I'm doing right now. She created a few awesome tomes, and one of them, which is the Solo Game Master's Guide. Fantastic book, by the way. I highly recommend everybody who wants to do solo, or even not. This just makes you a better GM. It makes you a better player. It makes you a better gamer at the table, whatever you want to do. And of course, remember, everything is playing. So not just writing out the numbers and fighting monsters is the only thing in our hobby. And that's what she kind of reiterated and drilled into my head, without her, she did a really good job with that. But that being said, seeing these independent creators make things is inspiring. Not to say that I think that I could do things better, just that I know that I can do things. And I think that's really important. And going to the Finger Lakes area Gaming Con really sort of solidified, okay, it's not as difficult to get things going. I just need to have, one, confidence, and the time to get things done and refocus. I've been spending a lot of time, unfortunately, playing my Vidya games, rather than sitting at the table here and creating things and creating stories. I really do want to get back to Shadowdark. I really have been missing Ironsworn and Starforged, but lately Starforged, not the system, but my story that I started is interesting, but I've hit sort of a creative wall on how to how to go forward with it. But there's no end in my creative sight. Like, I have lots of things I could do. I just feel like throwing up these ideas up into the ether like this too much is not what I really want to do with this. It really started this channel as a documentation of my play style and my thoughts. And they were a little more organized when my head was organized. And lately, I just haven't been. So I'm trying to give myself the benefit of the rest that I might need. But I also don't want to fall too far behind in my own creativity that I just don't continue. So that's also why I wanted to just press record. It's just to get something out there, to get my brain thinking and moving and just kind of moving things forward. But I think that's all I really wanted to say today. I could wax poetic, of course. I think this is going to be under my rambling video playlist, just because this is how it is. But I recommend everybody remember a couple of things. You can do something, and you do not need to compare yourself to others while you do it. There's so many creatives out there. There are so many things that that would benefit from your personal touch. And even if it's only for yourself, that only heightens your enjoyment going forward in whatever hobby that you choose. Contextually, for me, it's solo role-playing and solo gaming. But for you, it might be something different. But I think what's so cool about making your own game is that it is yours and yours alone, on top of the ideas that you get them. Now, I did not come up with this on my own. It is because my friend and I have been playing For Against Darkness for quite a number of years now online, and just oddly enough, our characters have been running into a lot of mushroom-themed enemies and dungeons and fungal caverns and things like that. So I'm just kind of running off with what's already in my brain, right? You know, next month it might be, you know, like Roman, soldiers building the, Roman roads or whatever. I don't know. Like, we have so many ideas that just kind of spur from seemingly nowhere. But that's all that I have for today. Until next time, folks, I'll see you next time. Peace.